So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anna. I am a relationship mentor, Reiki master teacher, and chakra healing expert. And I have worked with thousands of clients, both personally and professionally, specifically with these two beautiful modalities of Reiki and chakra balancing. And I have certified hundreds of students in them as well who are showing up doing their work so brilliantly. And tonight, for our third speaker, we have Rossana here, who's also a Reiki master teacher,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
and a chakra balancing practitioner. So,
Right. Yes.
Rossana, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and I guess your journey and how it led you to doing Reiki and chakra work and
Mhm.
um, just I love how you put it. It's not about what needs to be fixed, about the
Right.
fixing. It's about the healing.
Yes, absolutely. And so my story goes way back when. I always thought that there was something wrong with me. And, in my early 20s, sorry, not my teens, my 20s, I started to seek out help because I thought, what is wrong with me? I have difficulty speaking up. I feel that I have to be accepted by others. I had to, I yearned for their acceptance and
Mhm.
their,
Approval.
I just wanted to make everybody happy, without really, even if it went against what I felt that I had to do, I just wanted to make everybody happy. I wanted to make my parents happy, my teachers happy, and my bosses happy. And at the same time, though, I was finding it really difficult to speak my voice. And so, I sought help and I would get really revved up going to workshops and conferences and seminars. And, I'd feel all, motivated. And then life would happen and I would get back into the same old routine.
Mhm.
And so, really, the first time, Anna, when I came to you for Reiki, that was an aha moment for me. And that's when I realized that, you know what? There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need fixing. I need healing from the inside. And so that's when I began my journey. And to be honest, I can't even remember when I came to you for the first time. I know that I became a Reiki practitioner in 2016. And,
Wow,
and then in 2019, I did the
the
master
master.
with yourself. But really, and Reiki was the furthest thing from my mind because being raised Catholic,
Mm.
we're taught that, oh, Reiki is not good. And, I had heard about Reiki, but it was just so out there. And I couldn't grasp the concept of it. And so I came to you for aesthetics purposes.
Yeah,
And
my
then
journey started with in aesthetics.
that's right. And then, you did the Reiki, and I thought, you know what? It's okay. I think, you know what? I'm not going to get sucked in if anything, So
Right.
I did come to you for sessions, and that's really the pivotal moment of my life when I realized that, you know what? I need to do inner work here. And
Mhm.
so even though my journey, my real journey began in 2016, it took me a while to really dive deep. And so many things happened. I had a corporate job. I was in a marriage that I didn't want to be in. So I was toying with so many different emotions. And after actually the chakra balancing
Mm.
certification program that I took with you, that's when I started to do the inner work that I really dove in deep and did that work. And just be after that, after the chakra balancing, I did a self-love certification program. So those two combined,
Yeah.
I know exactly when my fear of being accepted, when my fear of communicating came from. And it was kindergarten And grade 4. Grade 4, the events that happened when I was in grade 4 stuck with me.
Yeah.
They paved the road for the rest of my life, and I had to deal with those issues. And I think half the battle is remembering what triggers those feelings and those thoughts.
Yeah. And I often say with with the chakra work, um, our first 10 years of life is where we get all our downloads,
Hmm.
right? And I always refer to it as, it's this operating system running in the background. So it doesn't matter how we show up or what we say here, it's this operating system that's consistently making decisions or getting in our way. And Rossana, we've known each other for quite some time. Like we've known
Yeah.
each other, but we haven't known each other,
Yes.
right? Like I
Yes.
think we've gotten to know each other more so in these past few years. But
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
looking at you, it's always like, you always showed up perfectly, let's say,
Hmm.
whatever perfectly means, right?
Right.
But
Yes.
no one would ever know that you were dealing with some of the stuff,
That's
right?
right.
So for
Yeah.
people who don't know you, they would have thought she has it all together.
Exactly.
And isn't that how a lot of people show up? They show up like they
Absolutely.
have it all together,
Yeah.
but yet you don't know what someone's really going through down deep inside.
No, and I mean, up until recently, I had a high-paying job. I had a really good position, and I had a nice house, a marriage, 2 cars, the 3 kids, and but still, I felt like I didn't deserve it because that's what my inner critic kept saying. Like, look at you. What, you don't deserve like this stuff, like, and so when we listen to that inner critic,
Mm.
we lose our voice, we become fearful, and we're not living our true authentic self.
No, and that impacts our relationships,
Absolutely, yeah.
right? It definitely impacts our
It
relationship.
does, yeah. Because if you don't have, self-acceptance, then and self-love, you can't love anybody else.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you can pretend and like you say, you can put on a show, but deep down, that's where all the insecurities come from, and just not being compassionate to one another. It's just it means a lot when you have that self-love and that even self-respect. I mean,
Right.
I didn't really respect myself when I wasn't being true to myself, when I
Mm-hmm.
was just going through the motions. That, I would never ever do that to a stranger or a friend. Why am I doing that to myself?
Right. Exactly. I
Yeah,
always say that the biggest bully lives up here.
exactly. And we make
Right.
up these stories, and they sound so real. And I was just gonna say, to your point earlier, how in the formative years, like up until 0 to 10,
Yeah.
those are the most formidable years. And the power of the word is so strong. And I can still remember some of those words that were told to me,
Yeah.
and that stuck. And that's, it just snowballed after that,
Right.
you know.
And like when we look at the chakra system, like, we're born into our families, which is our first tribe, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And how we feel we're accepted, or how secure we feel, or how safe we feel, really happens early on in life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And what happens in families, there's always like a code of ethics that you have to follow,
Hmm.
right? We do things this way, right? Those are the
Right.
things that we're told. And so
Right.
as we work up the chakra system, you know, we really find out who we are when we really reach the solar plexus, right? That's where,
Hmm.
who am I and how am
Right.
I separate from my family? And if
Yeah.
we feel that, this is how we do things, then we don't really give ourselves permission to do things differently, because then we start to wonder, well, am I going to be accepted here?
Exactly. Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's, and sometimes in early on, it's not something that we consciously are aware of. It's really subconscious, right?
Hmm.
And if I don't do things this way, then what's going to happen,
But
right?
that's learned at such an early age. I mean, you can take a 3-year-old and they already know what they have to do to gain acceptance from their parents
Right.
to get that praise. I mean, it doesn't happen in every family. I'm not saying that, but there are some people who are like not traumatized, but who are really affected by that the power of words. Oh, if you eat all your dinner, I'll give you
Right.
a treat. So
Right.
then we grow up thinking that, okay, if
I need a
I
treat.
have to do, yeah, I have to do things. And then growing up in a certain family, let's say, situation, where you're expected, like you said, you have to do A, B, and C, or you can't do
Yeah.
D. And what's the worst thing that can happen? But disowning,
Well,
maybe.
but as a child,
As a child,
it's
that's
very threatening.
exactly. I would never do that,
Right.
you know?
And so we live from that place, right? And it's not that there's anything wrong, let's say, with the families, because,
No.
I call this kind of the family karma, where certain things are believed and we do things a certain way and we just keep passing them down, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
and sometimes we're not even thinking why we do certain things. Why
right.
am I doing this? Oh, because I have to,
Hmm.
right? And that's one of the things that I often ask my clients is, so why? Why are you doing this way?
Right.
And a lot of times I get I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
No
exactly.
one's really ever asked me that before, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's important to just recognize, and it's not so much even like what family is doing. It's even like the position that you have um, within that family. So even
Hmm.
like siblings, let's say, like I always notice, like if you're the first one, if you're the firstborn, by
Yeah.
the time the second one comes, well, you already know how to do things. Maybe you know how to tie your shoes, but the second one doesn't. So
Right.
already they're perceiving, well, I can't do it. So I'm not as good as her or him,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
and so these belief systems just come from natural circumstances that happen.
Yeah, and it happens in the corporate world as well. I mean, as a manager, I had my beliefs and my values, but sometimes my hands were tied. I would want to handle a situation one way, but because of the culture of the organization, or
Once
you can't.
again,
You
we
you
do
have
it this way.
That's right. You have to do it their way. So, and that's a challenge as well, and it's conflicting.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, what would you say? Was there something very specific that led you to wanting to explore, let's say, this energy work or the spiritual path? Was
Yeah.
there, like, what was it? Because sometimes we go through life, just the way you were talking about, like,
Mhm.
from grade 4, and,
Yeah.
sometimes years go by before we are able to identify that I'm not feeling whole, or
Right.
what's wrong
Yeah.
with me? I'm not feeling happy. Or so, was there something that you can speak to that, like, what led you down this path?
So because I found healing, and it's just something internally that said, you know what, you have to share this. It's almost like a calling. You can't even explain. Like, I would have never thought that I would be in this position, owning my
Mm,
own business. I was forced to retire, which was a good thing. And so, when I look back, I feel that everything that's happened for me in my life, and I had to pause because it's not
yeah,
happening to me, it's happening
yeah.
for me. And I didn't make that up. It's Byron Katie who she coined
Mm-hmm.
that. It's whatever happens is happening for you. You may not understand it at the time, but it's eventually it'll make sense. And so this work, I always like to develop. I'm developing workshops, and so it was almost like I was pulled in this direction.
Universe
So,
helped you along.
sorry?
And the universe helped you along.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, big help.
Big time,
Big
right?
time. Yeah.
So, like you said, that you were forced to retire.
Yes. So in 2016, when I was a practitioner with you, I always had it in the back of my head that I wanted to practice Reiki. And then when I saw that you were offering the master, I thought, oh, even better, I want to teach Reiki. So, and that was 2019. And so I had made up my mind that I wanted to teach the Reiki because it is such a powerful modality. It is, I can't even explain it. It's such a big help. And so I think it was like beginning of 2019 in March. And I thought, okay, you know what? I have 3 more years. I'm going to work my corporate job, and then I'm going to, like, I'll start slowly into the Reiki. And then, when I retire at the age that I thought I was going to retire, I'm going to, go full-fledged into business and teach Reiki. And then things just kind of snowballed. And by the end of 2019, I think the universe said, you know what, Rossana, this is enough.
Yeah.
You are getting so stressed at this job. You don't need it. I have different plans for you. And that's when, things happened. And, I was forced to retire. And
How did it feel?
you know what? Actually, it felt relief. Like I felt relief. I thought, wow. And I took it as a sign. I took it as, you know what? This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to
Hmm.
be at this job anymore.
And good for you for
Um,
recognizing that.
yeah, and I mean, I was so close to retiring, like at the age that I wanted to. But you know what? It all worked out, and
So, and how has your life changed from, because I know like from corporate, it's not like I didn't enjoy well, it's not so much that I enjoyed my job. I always enjoyed people, right?
yes, yeah,
And it was leading, I guess, the group of people that I worked with that was probably the most difficult because I guess life is really all about connection, isn't it?
it is.
And, it was hard to leave the corporate world because we're so, we're wired that way, right? You have to have a
Hmm.
corporate job, you got to be in a certain position. And,
Yeah.
what about your pension? I remember that's one thing my mother said to me. What about your pension? And it's like, you want me to wait till I'm 65? Like, I don't even know if I'm going to make it there, right? We
Yeah,
just don't
yeah,
know. So,
that's
and
right.
that's when I fully understood that we really got to live for today, right? That's one of the Reiki principles.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because waiting for tomorrow, like you're always going to be waiting for tomorrow. Tomorrow
Right.
comes and then you're still waiting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Meanwhile, you have something that you're really passionate about. And what were some of the things you told yourself, Rosanna? Like for anybody who's listening and who's on
Mhm.
live with us right now, if they're contemplating like leaving the corporate world to like maybe starting a business or exploring this passion that they have, like there's that self-talk that happens.
Yes, absolutely.
So what kind of insights would you have for that?
So, I mean, it's not okay. So, I mean, I love what I'm doing. It's not easy.
It's not.
With the corporate job, I had that paycheck coming in every 2 weeks. I had the benefits, right? But it's just a different, I'm going to say stress because it is stressful to own your own business,
Mm-hmm.
especially when, I'm by myself. I have my mortgage. I have to put food on the table for my daughters, all that kind of stuff. So you have to be realistic. But you can do it. There's so many opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a Reiki class, then you're going out and you're getting business. So, for example, I'm working with a couple of colleges where I'm developing a workshop for their students on emotional well-being. I mean,
How wonderful.
how great is that? And I would
Yeah.
have never thought when I originally thought that I wanted the Reiki business that I would be able to do all these other things. So you have to really be creative. Start, if
And
start
looking
small.
for the
That's,
possibilities.
yeah, looking for the possibilities. I would always just say, maybe start small and then, gradually increase. Because going from something to nothing is really hard.
Yeah.
And you know, it is what, like, that's just life. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we have to be responsible, right? So
Mm-hmm. But if
yeah,
you're feeling like, a certain pull, then you need to explore it,
absolutely.
right? Because you don't want to get to the end of your days and say, because life goes by really quickly.
That's right. So if you know, if you need a certification, so when, you know, I took time in 2020, so I got the chakra balancing, the Reiki I had from before, the
Mm-hmm.
Reiki master. I got the chakra balancing that year. I got my self-love certification, and I also got my coaching practitioner certification.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there might be things that you will need, but after that, like, so I guess you're always going to need things, right? You're always going to you're going to always say that you're not ready. I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
But
And for sure, that's one of the things that I find in when I mentor practitioners to
mhm,
start their business. The one
yeah,
thing I always find is that, you know, all that comes up again is, yeah, I'm not ready yet, or I'm not good
right.
enough, and how could I? Like,
It's
exactly, who am I? Who do I think I am to be
right.
doing this?
Yeah. It's
But
that inner critic.
right, it's the inner critic, and it's that inner critic that says, "Oh, I just need one more thing," right?
Right.
But start where you are. Start
Yeah.
where you are, because when you start where you are and you just allow yourself to go out there and do the work that you're meant to do, you'll
Hmm.
know what direction you need to take. You don't
Absolutely.
have to figure it all out at the beginning.
No. And it's that fear too, right? That fear that, oh, am I going to make it? But the world is huge. I mean, you know,
Yes.
there's so many Reiki practitioners. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But
How many are on
there's
this
so
call
many
right now?
people. And but there's so, like, there's a whole world out there. And especially now, you know, and I mean, COVID is bad, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah,
it showed the world that, you know what? We don't have to be local, we can be globally.
exactly.
You know, we can reach people all over the world, and you know, with our type of work.
Yeah.
So,
And let's face it, like, during these times, I often say that the fears that people have suppressed
mhm,
and all the stuff that they've suppressed is really coming to
yeah,
the surface right now.
yes,
And why is
absolutely,
it coming to the surface? Because you're stuck in one spot,
yes,
and you don't have these distractions that was quieting that voice down deep inside,
right, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you're almost forced to listen to it,
mhm,
right? Like I've spoken to people where they're saying that, divorce is on the high right now because people are forced to be home with each other,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Whereas before, like, you went out. So, but is it because of COVID, or is it because the relationship lacked something,
that's right, yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah. It was always there.
it was always there. Like,
Yeah,
these times isn't what's brought it to that place, right? It's
mhm,
there's something there that needed attention, and
yeah,
people don't know what to do with it,
right, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, that's another area where you think it needs to be fixed, but it really needs to be healed,
that's right, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not always like a divorce that
No,
warrants it. Because I think if you really search for the healing first,
mhm.
you may notice that there's a lot more to the marriage that you have anyway,
That's right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the chakras is a perfect way to start it because, you know, if you're fearing, then you work with the root chakra, or I would just say work down up, you know,
Always down up,
always. And,
always,
you know,
because it's the foundation.
yeah, you'd be surprised at, you know, what you'll find, and what's keeping you stuck.
Yeah. And
Um, it,
that's
yeah,
one of the things that I always say with the chakra work is you always see what's hiding in your blind spots,
yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whatever's hiding in your blind spots really starts to show up in the chakra
That's right.
work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, what would you say is your biggest insight and learning from Reiki and chakra? I know with the chakra, like, it's easy to describe the chakra work,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we go through different stages and we really tap into the meaning of that chakra. But when it comes to Reiki,
So, yeah,
how would you describe, let's say, a session, right? Like how did you, do you remember what it felt like?
yeah,
And
absolutely. And I mean, I do Reiki all the time on myself and, on a few clients here and there. Um, but the way I describe it is, it's just it's a really great relaxation um, modality,
Mhm.
and you're really aware of the insides of your body, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's just it's just an
Because things
amazing
float when you're
things
in
float.
that
Yeah,
anything that's been suppressed starts to
exactly.
come to
Yeah,
the
and just
surface, right?
and you feel lighter after a session.
Yeah, a lot of
Um,
people say they have more clarity,
yeah, exactly.
they
And
sleep
and
better
I know exact sleeping. Yes, I mean if I can't sleep, I just do the Reiki, quick
on
Reiki
yourself,
session
right?
on myself, and I'm out. The other thing that I really used it for when I was in the corporate world, when I was working, I would send Reiki to my meetings. So if I knew I had, a leadership team meeting or another, huge meeting, I would send Reiki to that meeting because you can send Reiki present, past, and future.
Yeah.
And so honestly, it just works. I would go to the meetings and I wouldn't get stressed. I would speak, because I would concentrate on my voice, because when you do Reiki, you can concentrate on the chakras as well, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I would go in there and I found such a difference when I did that.
It's such an amazing modality for sure.
Yeah,
And even the percepts, right? When you just recite those percepts, like just for
yes,
today, do not
yes.
be angry. Just for today,
Powerful,
do not
powerful.
worry. Be kind to all living things. Do your
Yes,
work honestly. Be grateful, right?
yeah, yeah.
And people, like a lot of people can understand unless you've taken a course,
Hmm.
um, or even had a session, like it's difficult to understand what this with this energy, how powerful it is,
It
right?
is.
and
Yeah.
and the brilliance that happens in level 2, right? Because this is where
Yes.
we learn distant Reiki. And it surprises me because a lot of times I'll hear people say, oh, you can't do Reiki over Zoom. And my question is, well, if you understand level 2 and
Yes.
the whole concept or the power of no time, no space,
Hmm.
then how can you not,
That's right. Yeah.
right?
And I mean, just the fact that I would give energy,
To
if
someone,
and even, people would call me up and say, okay, I have an interview next week. I need you to send me Reiki,
beautiful.
right? And so I would, and also the past, you can heal past events with Reiki as well. And that's the beauty of it. So yes, absolutely it can be done, on the over the phone or via Zoom or
Yeah.
anywhere. Um, yeah. But
So
so go ahead.
okay, so now, and you're using both these modalities,
I am. So
so
I incorporate all of them. So I
everything.
incorporate the Reiki, the Reiki, the chakra balancing, and my self love. Everything that I
Hmm.
learned from that certification as well.
Hmm.
I sort of combine everything, and they work beautifully together in
Hmm.
combination. Um,
So when you did, let's say, the distant healing for someone who was doing the interview,
yes, yeah.
right? Like what would they report back?
So
Like
they would.
were they
They,
going in to the interview in a different space?
Yes, yeah, they felt more relaxed. Occasionally, it would be a really good interview, and that's because they're relaxed. You can't have a good interview if you have anxiety or if you're stressed,
Stuck in your
um, or if
heads.
you're worried, right? Yeah, if you're stuck in your head.
Yeah.
But with the Reiki, it's sending that energy, that relaxing energy, and I love meditating. So I'm a big meditator, and I'll do maybe half an hour a day. Sometimes just 10 minutes. But I find that, you know, when you meditate and you can do the Reiki on you as you meditate, it just
Absolutely.
gives you that extra thing, right? And it just, it doesn't, it doesn't dissolve all the problems. It doesn't take away all your problems or all your stress, but it just makes you handle it a little bit better.
Hmm.
You know, especially when you do it on a daily basis. It just gives you that extra sense of calmness.
Calm, yeah, calm and
Yeah,
peace, and um, it really encourages you to look at things differently. I
mhm.
always say, like, don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, change what
And
you can, you know, surrender to what you can't change.
yeah,
It,
and
it's simple, but
right.
you know, it's not at the same time because, you know, people I think get caught up with being in that mentality where, you know, woe is me, or you know, oh, it was
The
their
victim.
fault. The victim,
The
yeah,
victim. The archetypes is something that I've studied, and it's just so powerful to see how they show up in your life, right? And
yeah,
we all
yeah,
have like the four main ones, which we all have the same four main ones,
mm-hmm,
which is the victim, the prostitute, the saboteur, and the
right,
child, right?
yeah,
And there's so many different child that we relate to ourselves as something specific from our childhood. Like I always relate to myself as the abandoned or the orphan child.
mm,
Yeah, I was always like, you know, a cross between that. So that really, watching how all that plays out for me is
yeah,
key. And I also have the rebel archetype, and the rebel archetype for myself always shows up as like an instant no. And when that
yes,
instant no shows up for me, I have to sit back. Is this
yeah,
really a no, or is this just the rebel saying no? Right.
right,
So it's important to just recognize how you're feeling, and
mm-hmm,
especially through anxiousness,
mm-hmm,
like really what is making you anxious, right?
yeah,
What are the stories you're telling yourself around that?
right,
So, like, if you're, we'll use the example of the interview. When you're going, someone's going in for an interview,
mhm,
what are you saying? Are they going to want me? Am I going to be good enough?
right.
Is somebody going
Oh,
to be
I'm
better
gonna
than me?
forget. I'm not gonna be eloquent. I'm
I'm
not
going to sound stupid,
right. Yeah. Well, guess what? That's the outcome that you're gonna get then, right?
because that's the energy you're putting out there,
Yeah.
right? But how about maybe, you know, focusing on what great qualities do you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because people do this in relationships too.
Right.
Am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I thin enough? Am I like,
Yeah.
it's the stories, they go on forever,
They do. They
right?
do. And they sound so convincing,
They do.
you know, and
And you can automatically just, you know, is that true? Oh yeah, that is true, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She is prettier, or she is like, and it's difficult to, you're just always going to be somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's important to just really come back to you and value who you are
Yeah.
and know your worth, right? When you show up, whether you're showing up for a job, for an interview, or your own business.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these things, they don't stop at just relationships or at a job. I always tell anybody, if you're starting a business, the real healing work's really going to come up. What's
It
showing
does.
up again,
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
right?
every day, you know, and there's signs, you know, you have to really be open to the signs, because they're there. And if you pay attention enough, you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's me. I have to work on that. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is a lifelong journey.
It is a lifelong
It's
journey.
a,
And there's,
yeah.
and for anybody out there who's a perfectionist, you really got to take a look at that, because there's no such thing as perfection.
Mm-mm.
We
Nope.
are constantly evolving. We're
Yeah.
constantly growing. We're constantly doing our healing work. That's one thing I always say to my clients, like, it doesn't matter how many years I've been doing this, I am still constantly doing my healing work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Constantly do them in our relationships with our children, with our parents, Like we're constantly on that path. So Rosanna, how would you describe, let's say, the difference? Because you spoke about religion, and this is really a spiritual journey. So how would you describe, let's say, the difference between the two?
So
Like,
there's nothing, it's not religious. Like Reiki is not religious, or a religion. It's it's a practice, and it's almost like it complements. I mean, it could complement, and I could see where, I mean, I could see, where the Catholic Church will say that it's not, you're not supposed to do it. But then on the other hand, I find it very inclusive, and I find it that it helps one another. Like it almost complements.
yeah. So with
So,
Reiki, I always tell the way I describe Reiki is you're really on a personal journey in discovering who you are,
right. It
right?
has nothing to do with religion.
It has nothing
Or-
to do with religion. It's more about connecting to, let's say, the creator, God, universe, whatever, or however you refer
That's
to
right.
it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so when we're on the spiritual path, it's it's more about, why am I here?
Hmm.
What am I here to do?
What's my
Right?
purpose?
What's
Yeah.
my purpose? And I know for myself, like early on, like I always felt like, is this it? Is this all there is to life? I think, like, I was always the questioner, even from a
Mhm.
very young age. Is it
Right.
possible that this is all there is to life? Right.
Right.
And then when I started really connecting to the depths of who I was, and when I looked back at my upbringing and kind of things that were more me, right? Like, yes, being the eldest and being the caregiver, and looking at all that, like I look at it and I think, but I am that person,
Hmm.
right? I'm not meant to just give myself away to everybody, but I
Right.
am that. There is that aspect that is me, that's true to
Yeah.
me, and there are those times that I do excel in that,
Hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
do love connecting with people, and um, there's certain things that I learned from my upbringing that help me today. Like I
Absolutely.
probably
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do a business if I didn't learn some of the things back then that I probably look back and hated,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
that is what's shaped me
Yeah.
into who I am today,
That's right. And
right?
yeah, and that's why I said, you know what? Everything that's happened for us has brought us to this point. People look at, oh, what's my purpose? They feel that it has to be a huge thing. Well, no, your purpose is you. God made you perfect.
Right.
And you're exactly where you should be.
Absolutely.
And that's your purpose. But
Hmm.
people don't realize it, and they go seeking externally,
Right,
right?
exactly. I
And
need
and
more
that
of this and more of that. And all the
that's right.
stuff that we're seeking, that we're seeking for, we're leaving here. We're not
Yes,
taking any of it with us.
that's right. So what's in
What's
here,
in
right?
here
Yeah,
is what goes,
that's right.
right?
Yeah.
So religion is more about following, I guess, somebody else's path, or restrictions, or I don't know, like, even like when we talk about the crown chakra, and we really dive into that, we ask like certain questions, right?
Right.
What is true for us? Like, if something doesn't make sense for you,
Right. But you seek that. You seek those answers, to that question, and either you're seeking from the universe, you're seeking from God, you're seeking from whoever you believe in, Buddha,
right,
whoever. You're connecting with that source,
right.
right? So that's the way I look at it. And yeah, it's religion is a personal thing,
It
and
is,
yeah.
right. And then I think with either path, religion or spirituality. It's more about um, own it,
Yeah.
own it, and do the work with it, right? Like even in religion, it says, "Seek and you shall find."
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
not like we just don't pray for things to just show up. We have to be involved in it, right?
Right. We have to be aware of those signs and be open to them.
Right. Because
Yeah.
even in spirituality, we're connecting, right? Show
Yeah.
me the way.
Yeah.
I remember I always used to say, "Show me the way,"
Yes.
and then it would show you the way, and it's like you're looking the other way.
Right. Exactly. It's like, okay, I don't want to go that way.
Yeah,
You're
but you
fighting it.
said, "Show me the way," so it doesn't always look like we want it to look,
Right.
right?
Yeah. It doesn't happen the way we think it's going to happen. Yeah.
So it's important to be open, that if you're asking for something, that you're really open to seeing what shows up, right? So I'll give you an example. Like, if you go out tomorrow and let's say you want to just play with manifesting a little bit,
Hmm.
and you say, "Oh, I want to see a clown," right?
Yeah.
Well, you got to be looking for a clown, but not necessarily a clown that somebody's dressed as a clown.
Right.
Maybe you're going to see a truck drive by and it's got a clown on it. So
Hmm.
the signs aren't always going to show up the way you think they're going to show up. And you really
Right.
have to have your eyes open when you're doing this manifesting work, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the other thing with manifesting too is um, the parts that need to be healed show up through that too,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So what's preventing you from having what you want,
Right.
right? That's one of the things that we talk about in the chakra class
Yeah.
too.
And sometimes we put up these barriers on our own, and we don't know how to overcome them, but sometimes they're not barriers. It's just that we put those barriers up.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not good enough. I'm too old. You know,
Right.
that came to my mind too when I started my business. Oh, I'm too old.
Yeah.
What,
That,
why there's so many young people out there doing videos and but you know what? I did my own video. I'm doing my own videos. I've got my YouTube channel. So you know what? It's getting out of that comfort zone. It's getting out of that mentality
yeah.
that it's you have to be this way to do
Well,
this.
and then you're being seen, right?
Right. Yeah.
So again, it is that whole voice and who's going
Yes.
to see you and who's going to judge you and who's going
Yeah.
to, that
Yeah.
all comes up, right?
Yeah. And
But
who's our
if,
big worst enemy is ourselves. We
right.
judge ourselves probably more than we judge anybody else.
For sure. And that's one thing I say, like in this industry too, is as long as you're focusing on being of service,
That's yes.
right?
Yes.
When you're just being of service, you show up and you just, whoever needs you is gonna see you, hear you,
Yes, exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I know we have a few teachers on here too, so that happens in the classroom too, right? Not everybody's going to see you and notice you, or they're all going to have a different opinion of you,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, it's more about knowing what you're there to do, and
Right.
how you're there to serve. And when we're looking at other people, when we look at judgment, most times it's not so much you that they're judging, it's really something in them that
Hmm.
you know that needs to be healed,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's when you feel it, it's
Mhm.
almost like a natural reaction that shows up for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, with our type of business, it's not, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it to help people. If I can reach one person
Yeah.
with my, stress YouTube video, my job is done.
Right.
I'm not there to attract the masses.
Right.
I'm there to attract whoever needs me. And
Yeah.
they're not, like, yeah, I'm not putting on a show for anybody's sake. I'm trying to provide a service. I'm trying to provide some advice, just to talk, because you don't know who you're gonna affect or who you're gonna
Yeah.
reach you know,
Or
that who may need what you're saying.
who needs to hear it on that
Hear it.
specific day.
Right,
Like
exactly.
I often notice with this work that it doesn't matter how many times you say it. Sometimes you can tell the same person the same thing over and over again,
Right.
and they'll hear it differently all of a sudden one day. It's like
Absolutely.
a light bulb goes on,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, what do they say that the teacher appears? How does it say? The student appears? Somebody know it? You can type it in the
Any teachers?
huh? This teacher appears when the student is ready or something. No, nobody
Okay,
knows
I get
that.
the gist of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
the teacher appears when the student is ready. There you go.
thanks, God.
Ah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So if it's out there, you don't know. Someone might see it 3 years from now,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I've had that happen a lot, where somebody
Yeah.
might be following me, and then it's like 3 years later, it's like, they're ready,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, the other thing I say in the sort of this healing modality is that, we show up as the lighthouse, right?
Yes, I remember
And
you saying, yeah.
yeah, and when you show up, the lighthouse doesn't go out looking for the lost ships. The lost ships find their way home
Right.
by the lighthouse. So the more you shine your bright light, and the more someone's going to see it, right? So I like the way you said that about doing videos and stuff. And it is difficult. It is difficult going live, and
Oh, it's very hard. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
especially if you have throat chakra issues, right?
Well, and I did.
It's the
Yes.
same here, right?
Yes.
And and being seen, but I always have to remember, that's one thing that always sticks with me, is just be the lighthouse, because you don't know
Yeah.
which lost ship needs to find their way home.
Yes. Yeah, just
So
your authentic self. And sometimes I'll be on a walk, no makeup, and I'll just take a video,
yeah,
and it's like,
I'm
yeah,
not there yet. Not yet.
But it's definitely getting out of that comfort zone. If it's easy, there's no growth that's happening.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
like,
it's
we
as
need to
simple as
live
that.
each moment fully.
Yes. Yeah.
Extend yourself. And it feels so good when you do, right? Even though
It
it's
does.
scary, it just feels free, right?
Exactly. And it feels like an accomplishment, and like I said, it feels like you're helping somebody. It may not be instant, like you say, but I've gone on videos where they're dated, but I needed that message at that time, and I just happened to stumble across it. Another great thing that I learned from you, Anna, is that book, and I can't remember what it's called. The one that you would make. And I'm sure you do this with
Oh,
other clients.
the prayer,
The
the prayers
prayer.
of the great creator.
Yes.
The prayers of the great
Yes.
creator.
Anytime I need a message, I go there and like the
They're
appropriate
perfect.
page, shows up. And also with so I do tarot cards as well. The Doreen Virtue
Right.
Archangel Michael. I'll go and I'll pull cards, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
yes, this is what I needed to
Yeah.
hear.
And it's, and I do incorporate them into my sessions. And a lot of times, it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but like, when we're talking about something that comes up in that session, and
Yes.
then they pull a card or they do a reading, and they'll be like, we were just talking about this throughout the whole session. How did this show up?
I know.
Like,
I know. It's unreal.
it
And
is.
yeah, I mean, I do them every Sunday night. So I ask for 3 messages. And boy, I tell you, they are bang on.
Everything you needed to hear.
Everything that I needed to hear, it's there in black and white. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, let's ask if anybody has any questions. Does anyone have any questions for myself, for Rossana? And I can't see. I'm just gonna hop on over to Facebook. Just type it in the chat if you guys have anything that any insights that you had maybe from our talk tonight, or any questions that you might want an answer to. Anyone on Facebook as well? All right. So, Rossana, why don't you share a little bit? I know you spoke a little bit about, some of the work that you do, but what are you offering your practice for anybody who's interested or who might want to do some work with you?
Sure.
Is there anything specific that's going on right now?
So I have workshops online. So for those who, just want something self-paced, they go through the modules on their own. I have courses on there, on my website,
And what's your website?
balancedpath.ca.
Okay.
And I also have workshops, asynchronous, or synchronous, sorry. So, I teach them over Zoom, of course, now.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm working with a few colleges, and I'm developing wellness programs for their students, so that, because they're going through a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
all our lives have changed, but, when you're going to college and you think that you're going to, be face to face in class, that can be really difficult, to handle. So, just stress relievers, just overall well-being, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So, I'd love to get into the corporate world, to train and to offer my workshops in the corporate industries. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, so I'm busy doing those things. Like I said, reaching out, proposals, writing proposals out.
Yeah.
But I do also do one-on-one. So I have a mastery of self acceptance. I have a mastery of self-love. So, I can do those one-on-one or in a group session. Yeah, so.
Beautiful. And what other platforms can people find you at?
So Instagram and Facebook. So Instagram is at balancedpath.ca, and I think Facebook is the same. I'm not sure.
Balanced
I'm
Path.
bad.
Yeah.
Balanced Path, yeah. And my YouTube channel. So I just I'm launching this week a little segment on stress, because we all have stress, and I share
Mm-hmm.
with you three of my strategies. And then I've also created a meditation on stress.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's around 16, 17 minutes. So they are on my YouTube channel. Please, if you want to go and have a look at it. But I will be posting about that probably tomorrow or on Saturday.
Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice. And Sabrina's saying that she thinks, she's saying, I think high schools should have this too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's lots of different avenues to get in there. And, in the last little while, I'm actually seeing a lot more younger people coming through the door, a lot
Mhm.
more younger people, which I mean, is great to see that they have this awareness that something needs to change and that they want to be better and they want to do the healing work. But at the same time, they also have that level of stress,
Absolutely, yeah,
that
yeah.
they need help with,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So there is definitely a lot of different
Yeah.
avenues,
Yeah,
but
and it's also finding clarity. Of a lot of students, I'm finding they're stuck. They don't know, which way to go.
absolutely.
So, I didn't talk about this, but I'm a passion test facilitator, and it's a really good tool to find that clarity. Look at your goals, and then, develop action plans and concrete action plans that are going to get you to that outcome. We all
Hmm.
talk about goals, and sometimes we have the best intentions of, fulfilling our goals, but sometimes they fall through the cracks. And I
Yeah.
think, it's because we might not have enough clarity, or motivation, or, we have to set little milestones for
Yeah.
ourselves.
Or
So
sometimes it's expectations they have from their parents too, right? That they get
true.
stuck
Yeah,
on, right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's this fear of failing. And when you do fail, I always say failure is nothing wrong. Failure is how we learn. If you fail, don't get discouraged.
No, just get up and do
Learn
it.
from it.
Yeah.
Learn from that experience, and set yourself some other goals, or set some other action items. And work it through that way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
I thank you so much.
Oh, no, this has been great. And, I hope everyone has had, some, insight on these beautiful modalities and how well it helps you deal with your stresses in your life, and how it helps you, I guess, know the path to be on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and for any of you who are interested, you can follow me at Holistic Journey on Facebook, and also at holisticjourney.ca on Instagram. And if anyone's interested in learning, to be a chakra balancing practitioner, or doing the Reiki, I think, do you teach Reiki Master
I
as
do.
well? Okay, so any of the
Uh,
levels,
yeah.
we're both here available to help you guys. But if anybody wants to do the certification in the chakra work, it is coming up starting June 1st. It is on for 50% off right now. You'll get the details following this email tomorrow, or sorry, the webinar tomorrow. You'll get in an email. I'll put Rosanna's information in there as well, so you
Thank
can
you.
follow her through there.
Great.
And just reach out to us if there's anything at all that has inspired you tonight, or you feel that you need any help in or any guidance. I also offer 45-minute complimentary consultations. So we're here. Don't ever feel like you're alone, and don't ever feel that there's no hope, because there's always hope.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yes.
you all for joining us, and thank you, Rosanna. It's such a
Thank you,
pleasure having
Anna.
you on.
Thanks. It was
So
great.
stay
Thanks,
safe,
everyone.
everyone, and live your life.
Oh,
Right?
thank you. Yes. Hi,
Ah,
Stella.
thank you, Stella.